everyone. Welcome back to Poppin' In with Alexa and Molly. I'm Alexa.
I'm Molly.
And we are back for another exciting episode to talk about our favorite topics. Movies, TVs. I'm starting
Pop
this
culture.
over. This was stupid. This was really bad.
I think it's cute.
Okay. We're professionals.
Your finger was on the stop button and I was like, no, keep it going.
I feel like every week we're like, yeah, let's get started. And then it's just like I completely blank on what to say or who we are or what we're talking about.
Introing is just like not our thing. So if you can get past the first like 20 seconds, like we promise we'll get better.
Especially because we're like grinning at each other. Like I can see the lights in our eyes where we're just like, ah.
Well, we've been talking for like 2 hours already. So.
Yeah.
But we're not stopping. We're gonna keep yapping.
we're gonna keep the yap train going.
Are we still recording?
Choo choo. Yeah, we're recording. Can you imagine? I'm just talking to you
it's
like
actually
this.
my biggest fear. Okay, so last week was a 2.5 hour episode. So like if you stuck with us, like you are our number ones. But I did get worried the entire episode while we were recording with friend of the pod Megan. I was like, is Alexa recording? Like I was so worried.
There was this one podcast I was listening to where like the sound got messed up throughout like the episode, and they came on and they like did a thing where they were like, hey, just so you know, like something messed up with our audio, so like it's still worth a listen, but you might just hear like some clipping or whatever. And I was like, I get why they did that. Like, what are you gonna re-record the whole episode? I just
Absolutely
feel like no episode this week. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
Those topics you'll never hear about. We're done.
I would have been so mad because last week was a good one.
It was a good one.
As far as topics.
Our debate got really
funny.
heated.
Yeah, Alex and I almost lost a friendship.
Yeah, that was really tough.
Never, but also almost.
Also, I meant to text you. I put an update on my Sim City. I now have Zendaya Holland in there. Someone named Fig Newton. And
what do you mean someone? Why'd you name her Fig Newton?
It's a man. I don't know.
Why'd you name him
It's
Fig
hard
Newton?
coming up with... I have 8 Sims now. I can't keep coming up with names.
Fig Newton?
The one for Chris I named William Williamsburg. And
should be his name.
Mine was Carmen Sandiego. But I also put
that.
I put Jane Austen in there.
Good.
Like I've just been... I'm like...
Fig Newton's hilarious because Newton is a last name. So it's just funny that you're like Fig.
Fig. There we go.
What's that short for?
Figaro. Newton. So anyways, that's an update on my SimCity. In case you didn't know, I already put Timothy Chalamet in there. I put my dog, my cat. I put me, Chris. Poe Puppy, yeah. And Misty Kitty in there. And yeah. So that's my SimCity. But on to what we've been watching. So it's what is it? Nosferatu. Baby Girl season.
No.
Okay.
Hold on. Stop.
Baby Rat.
Baby Ratu. And then I don't know how to get a complete unknown in there, so I think it's just like Baby Ratu unknown or something.
Okay, yes.
A complete Baby Ratu.
We have completed the circle.
The circle.
Yeah, the circle. And
the trilogy.
In case you didn't know, like listen to the last episode, we go over Nosferatu, A Complete Unknown, and now we have witnessed Babygirl.
Yeah.
Gorl, Babygirl.
I don't know if the girl thing is still funny.
What? The Gorl?
Yeah.
Oh, am I just dating?
I don't know.
Are you just telling me to like shut up?
No, I'm asking myself, like, is that still funny to say?
I think it's funny if you use it like every now and then. Like I don't say like girl every day.
It just feels like it was starting to feel a little millennial.
Okay, well I'm like, why is that an insult? I'm a millennial, you know?
I'm sorry.
Of course you aren't. You're Gen Z technically.
I don't know. I think I'm on the cusp.
I think you are too, because I feel like there are things you definitely get that Gen Z get, but like I think there's things that we talk about where we're both like, what?
Me a perfect pop culture person because I can like relate to both.
Yeah.
Things.
I can't.
Oh,
I think I relate to boomers.
I actually, this is a follow up on our last episode, but I did send you a TikTok about how, I don't know if you read it because you didn't respond to it, but you instead sent me a different TikTok. But there was a TikTok where it was like the thing that separates like chronically online people from not chronically online people is if you know who Club Chalamet is. And I knew who Club Chalamet was last week, and you had never heard of her. And you're a huge Timothy Chalamet fan.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny because I was like, okay, that means I'm chronically online.
Well, I also think my algorithm is stupid because I will never forget the time that Diana Gabaldon, who is the author of the Outlander series.
Oh, that's her name?
Yes, came to Yorktown, which if you don't know is 20 minutes from here. And I'm a huge Outlander fan. I get like my algorithm is Outlander shit all the time. Mm-hmm. And both you and Chris were like, yeah, you didn't know, like, Diana Gabaldon was here yesterday. And I was like, what?
Yeah, my mom and Hannah, like, everybody.
And I was like,
what?
I know. I think I turned to, like, both of you. I was like, if you don't hear me actively saying that, assume I don't know. Because I would have been talking about it. Like, I would have been in that line. I would have been there. Like, my algorithm gives me dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I get so many, like, animals as people, AI stuff.
Is that
like,
why
creepy.
you named your Sims Po Puppy?
No, that's a different part of my psyche. It's also just because it's
hard
to keep coming up with names.
I know.
Anyways, Poe and Timothée Chalamet are now in a healthy marriage.
So Zendaya Holland, I have a problem with that one.
I didn't know what to put as her last name.
Well, her last name is Coleman, but which we established last week.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's going to take Tom Holland's last name because she is Zendaya.
Yeah.
So he's going to take her last name, so he'll just be Tom.
Okay.
Tom Zendaya.
Oh, I love that. I've been watching a lot of videos of them. But back to Babygirl.
We are not here to talk about. Okay, back to Babygirl. We finally saw Babygirl, which if you don't know, it's an erotic thriller starring Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson. Also, Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
Who's great. I love him.
Yeah, he was great in that. I feel like I haven't seen him anything since Spy Kids.
Or since Shrek 2.
Oh yeah. He plays a hot Puss in Boots. I'll give it to him.
The whole time I was thinking about Puss in Boots, I'm not gonna lie. Every time he spoke, I was like, this is
to go from Puss in Boots to Babygirl. That's crazy.
To be fair, I don't think, just to clarify, that
he's
wasn't
been in stuff. Yeah.
But that was the last time I'd seen him in something.
Yeah.
And also Ewan McGregor's daughter was in it.
Oh yeah, did she play the older one, right?
Yeah, the like more main character daughter. But okay, so for those who haven't seen it yet, Babygirl is, like we said, it's marketed as an erotic thriller, and it stars Nicole Kidman as a very successful, powerful CEO of this company that she built from the ground up, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a tech company. And their company takes in a bunch of interns, and this intern, played by Harris Dickinson, kind of this mysterious guy, you really don't know that much about him.
Yeah.
Comes in and he decides they're part of like a mentor program, and he decides to take her on he wants her to be his mentor, which is like unheard of because she's the CEO.
Right.
Well, he like doesn't back down. He's like, you are my mentor, and they start this very whirlwind relationship.
Yeah.
Where basically, how would you describe it? It's like basically just him telling her what to do.
Yeah, and we should say like a warning that this is going to be probably like heavily sexually graphic content, just because that's what the movie is about.
Yeah.
And we'll probably also say spoilers. So just if you don't want to hear that, just skip. You can see the episode timestamps in our description, and you can skip to the next section. But I would say like, so their relationship, I wouldn't even say it's a relationship, it's a sexual power balance ship.
Yeah, because the idea is like she's a CEO, so it's like she has all the power, and she gets nervous, so they start this like situation where they're just like hooking up, and she's cheating on her husband, but an affair.
Yeah.
But like she says, I don't want to hurt you because you're so young, and I'm like taking advantage of you. And he corrects her, and he's like, no, I'm actually the one with all the power, because I could snap my finger and you would lose your job just by like telling people. So it starts this kind of like different dynamic than what would originally be thought, because he's like telling her what to do, and it's like it unlocks this part of her that she has like always wanted.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't feel like she's getting what she wants out of her relationship with her husband. So it's like very, it was interesting.
And I think it's interesting to like think about, so the director, Helena Rein, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's HALINAREIJN. But she was saying basically she wanted to do this movie because she likes roles for women that are layered, and I would say this is a super layered role, where she was like, I don't want like a Disney princess type of thing where it's like, yeah, they're a strong woman just because like they're a strong woman. She was like, you can be a strong woman and also be weak in certain aspects.
I have always said this, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll get into that later, but continue.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just think like I love hearing that, and I don't know if this is like exactly relevant, but I feel like people, this is so not related to the topic, so I don't even know if we want to say this. But I was thinking, like, if you're talking about, like, they keep trying to remake these Disney princess movies, for example, and they're like, you make her a strong warrior. And I'm like, there was nothing wrong with them before.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be, like, people's version of strong doesn't necessarily mean that they're in a battle. It can also mean, like, they're kind and they
live with a bunch of forest animals, you know?
They put up with their mean-ass stepmom, and but then they still, like, have their goal, like,
they sleep
they're
a
working
lot,
towards their goals.
You know?
Yeah.
That's fine.
But for real, like, it doesn't always have to mean what people take strong as. So I think I don't know if that's relevant, but that's how I choose to read it.
I think people sometimes think that, like, to describe a strong woman, they're basically describing, like, a man, where it's like, oh, they go into battle and they're stoic and they're like, not that, like, that's very obviously, like, generic description of, like, a man, but do you know what I mean? Like, more masculine qualities.
Exactly.
Whereas I liked this depiction. Nicole Kidman, I think her character's name is Romy.
Yeah, Romy.
But I think her husband or someone always pronounces it like Roomy, but then some people say Romy, so I don't know. Anyways.
I didn't even know her name until halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, it's Romy?
Yeah, doesn't matter. It's Nicole Kidman, so you're just
with a different colored wig.
Yeah, as always. And the thing is, I was saying this, I was like, she's so famous. She's in these huge movies. I just think we could get a better wig budget.
We could, and I think it's interesting because it is like, it's so obviously a wig.
Yeah, it's so obvious. Like, look at that hairline is insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, and it's like not properly attached to her head or something. I don't even know what it is. It's like not fitted to her head.
It's always like a strange color too. I'm not crazy about the color. It's like she's too fair-skinned for the colored wig they keep putting on her. But anyway, I digress.
But I think so. What's interesting, we were talking about strong women. So she's like this very competent CEO where she's obviously brilliant. She talks about like her first job. She was in this, like, had to go through this series of questions where, like, one of them, they sat her in a room and they were like, how many ping pong balls can fit in this room? And she had to, like, figure it out. Like, she's essentially like a genius.
Yeah.
But you can tell, like, she has these soft spots. And I think, you know, I like having that layering where it's like, oh, she has this, there's the first scene that her and Harris Dickinson's character, whose name is Sam, like, really have any kind of sexual interaction is when they are in this hotel room and he's kind of taken dominance where he's like, face the wall, and then he's like, take your clothes off. She's like, I'm not gonna do that. And he's like, okay, well, get on your knees. And she does, and she lays down and he's kind of like doing stuff to her while she's like on her stomach, and she lets out, like, she has an orgasm. She lets out this, like, animalistic sound where it's both like she feels embarrassed during it. She's like no, and then she, like, but it also feels really good. And then it's like you can tell, like, it's not even just like a sexual thing at that point, like it's an emotional thing where she's just like letting out all of this whatever, and you don't even need to know that much about her background. Like, you learn that she kind of was raised in a cult or something.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like,
there's like a whole
mentioned,
like background thing.
But I think it's just like this feminine thing of like this very, like, obviously outwardly strong person and just like that huge release of letting go. And I noticed it was also like the way she was laying was in the first scene. You see her and Antonio Banderas, who plays her husband. I forget what his name is in the movie.
I can't remember.
But anyways, they are having sex and it seems like phenomenal or whatever, but then you see her go and she essentially has to, like, get herself off in a room by watching porn by herself, and she's laying on her stomach and doing it, and it's like the same way that, like, Harris Dickinson's character is doing that to her when they first encounter each other, which I thought was a really interesting, like, symbolism. But I think, like, so what's interesting is friend of the pod Emily said her friend said that it was billed as an erotic thriller, but it wasn't very erotic or thrilling, and I would say it's more of a psychological erotica. Yeah.
I think a lot of it was like the tension building.
Yeah.
Which some people may not find sexy, but, like, I mean, I think in some case, I think it is. Like,
yeah.
And one thing we talked about before seeing this movie was, I think we were I went into it with, like, lower expectations because from seeing Challengers, which I love Challengers, but that was also sort of, it felt like billed as like an erotic thriller, and it definitely wasn't. Like, it wasn't, there was like one sex scene and it wasn't even, it was like over the clothes. And I think I was kind of expecting it to be like much tamer than they were marketing it as, but it ended up being, and again, depending on the way you look at it, I thought it was very sexual and sexually charged, very
heavily sexually charged. It was a lot of
tension building.
I think it was a lot of, like, emotional, psychological, sexual aspects to it.
Yeah.
That I think were really interesting to see play out. Because the thing is, like, their relationship, like I said, it's not even like a relationship. Like, there's this moment where they finally, like, both kind of let go, and it's the father figure scene. So, like, George Michael's father figure is playing, and Harris Dickinson is kind of dancing, and they're, like, laughing and, like, being, like, playful with each other.
Yeah.
And I think, like, that's when, like, the closest you ever see them really get, like, in terms of they have this heavily intimate relationship, but not, like, any real knowledge of each other. But I think there's something, like, kind of freeing about that in their relationship. Whereas I think you see there's a scene early on with her husband, Antonio Banderas, where she's like, I want to have sex with you while I watch porn. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, we can do that, sure. And then she's like, no, like, I don't. She puts a blanket over her head. She's like, no, I don't want you to look at me. Like, it feels too weird or whatever. And I think there's, like, I think maybe they're getting at, like, that freedom of being with someone who, like, you don't know, they don't know you, and you can be, like, your kind of freaky little self or whatever. Whereas, like, it's like, oh, we have a whole life together, we have children, we have whatever. It feels weird to be, like, open and vulnerable sometimes.
Interesting, because I took that as, like, when she was covering her face, I thought it was more like she wanted it to be like he was doing it to her, rather than, like, you know, because she kind of wanted that, like... Yeah. Because I think she and Harris Dickinson do that later, something like that, where it's, like... I can't remember, but I think it's like something like she's not really looking or whatever. And then, but he's kind of like, okay, I don't, like, Antonio Banderas is like, I don't want to do it like that. It feels like I'm like a villain or something. Yeah. And so they're just not on the same page. She wasn't, you know. Yeah. And then with Harris Dickinson, she was getting something out of it that she didn't even know that she really wanted. And it's just interesting because they didn't fully give him a background. Like, you don't really know anything about him. He just kind of comes in and comes out.
He says something, like, someone asks him, and he talks about how, like, his dad was, like, a or a philosophy professor.
But
or something.
He was telling, like, her daughters that. So you don't even know if that's true, I think. So that's one thing is, like, he shows up to her house. Like, there's just things that start to happen where she's like, oh, we can't do this. Yeah. And then he's like, he gets, like, pretty angry because he's like, well, I don't know, like, what you want then. Like, I'm, you know. And then it's like the minute that she feels like he's, like, pulling away, or she feels like, you know, like, she realized, like, she's, like, attached to him. Like, she's now become, like, addicted to him, basically. Yeah. And it's, like, it's just such a, it's interesting.
It is interesting because it also feels like he basically, like, she tries to take control. So the whole thing is, like, a power dynamic, right? Yeah. Where it's, like, she, in the beginning, technically has control over him because he's the intern. Mm-hmm. But then he has control over her because it's, like, well, when we're doing these sexual things, like, I could get you into a lot of trouble. But he also, like, literally in the bedroom has control like, over he, her, like, demands her to do, he demands her to drink a lot of milk in this movie.
Which I saw Nicole Kidman say in an interview that she was fine with that because she, like, loves milk. And I'm just going to say I had to look away during that scene because milk kind of grosses me out.
I love milk too, but not if someone's... Also, what bar is like, yeah, here's a glass of milk. We just have this on hand? Yeah. That's crazy. And also, like, there's a scene where she has to lick it up like a cat. And I'm like, oh, ugh.
Yeah, that was... But, and then she has an assistant, meanwhile, like, one of the kind of the plots is, like, she has an assistant who's very, like, a go-getter, very determined, and she sort of also makes it clear, because she, again, I mean, these are spoilers, but, like, she knows about the relationship, and so she is, like, kind of threatening Nicole Kidman, and so now it's, like, all these people have this, like, power over her. Right. Because of this decision that she made, and it's just... Yeah. It was interesting, but one thing I thought was... one thing that stood out to me during the movie was the soundtrack. Like, the music was very good. It was very interesting. It was, like, kind of, I felt like it was, like, this almost, like, not animalistic, but just sort of this, like, wild, like, kind of, like, operatic vocals. And it just was, like, it was, like, very kind of, like, intense. And I don't know how to explain it, but it just was, like, cool. And I literally said to Alexa, like, it reminded me of The White Lotus. And I looked it up after, and it's the same composer.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It's Cristobal Tapia-de-Veer. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but yeah, it's like very like the score sounded very similar, where it's like almost, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like not animalistic, but just kind of something about it where it's like, if you watch The White Lotus, you know it has a very distinct soundtrack. Yeah. And so that, to me, like, the music really added a lot to it. Oh, yeah. Too.
And I don't think, I will say, like, it definitely wasn't, like, a thriller to me in any way. Like, I wasn't like, oh, this is, like, I don't know, like, thrillers usually, to me, entail, like Saw or something like that. Like, a level of, like, horror. I think it was thrilling or like titillating, you know, like you didn't know what was going to happen, but it also like, I don't know. I really liked it, but I think when we came out of the theater, like all like we saw it with friend of the pod Meg in. Well, I've never called her Meg in my life. That was weird. Her name's Megan. Anyways, we saw it, all three of us were just like, yeah, like I don't really know what to, like that was good.
And it was like we didn't really know what to say, but I liked it.
Yeah. I'm not sure like what the movie is trying to say necessarily. Maybe like the complexity of like female sexuality, I think, is an interesting takeaway.
Absolutely. I think I have never really, I'm not going to say I've never seen anything like it, but like I think, yeah, like you said, it was like kind of, it was a different take on women, like female sexuality. I also thought it was interesting. I meant to add this earlier when you were talking about their first like scene in the hotel room. I felt like it was super realistic. Like it wasn't immediately like sexy and like, oh my God, like so like hot and whatever. It was like really awkward at first. Like they both were kind of laughing. She felt super uncomfortable. He also, it's not like he was immediately like, get on the floor, like get on your knees. Like he was very like, he also like didn't really...
Yeah.
He was, like, kind of awkward about it, too.
And that was one of the things the director pointed out. She was like, when I do sex scenes, like, I don't want it to be, like, this big cinematic thing where it's, like... Yeah. And I was thinking about that movie... What's the Anne Hathaway one where it's, like... Oh, The Idea of You. Where, like, she, like, takes off her robe and she's wearing the hottest outfit ever and they just, like, start, like, making out and, like, having sex. And then I'm, like... I think this was a nice portrayal where it's, like, yeah, like... I don't know. Stuff like that. It's not, like, oh, like, yeah, we're... like it's not like fluid, you know, it's like, oh, I bumped into you, or like, you know, it's like a little bit, and I think she wanted to play it like that sense of like awkwardness that comes from like,
well, especially like what they were doing and who they were, like the whole thing was like, I mean, they both like, she knew it was, she didn't really want to do it, but like she did, so it was just like a very, and that's where I say the tension building was like 98% of the movie, which I could see somebody not liking, like if that's not what you were expecting, then like, yeah, I guess you would be a little bit disappointed, but I think that like you, I think explained it well, that it was like a psychological sexual thriller.
And I wish I could remember, I was listening to this interview with the director where I was like, oh, it makes sense that I liked like this kind of thing versus like just outright sex or whatever, where she was basically describing it the way you would describe like the sexual tension in Pride and Prejudice, where it's basically like a lack of like physicality, but it's like the hand clench, or it's like the unsaid type of things that are there, you know?
There's, like, moments in it that make you, like, gasp, but it's not, like, him being, like, it's, like, little things, like, in the beginning where he's, like, at one point, like, he comes up behind her and he, like, whispers, good girl, like, after she drank the milk. And it's just, like, a little scene. Or just, like, little things that he'll say. Okay, the part that I thought was, like, the most, like, oh, my God, was when they were first in the, it was, like, when she was first interviewing her. Because, again, she was part of the mentor. He, like, took her on. He wanted her to be his mentor. And so she's, like, has no time for him. She comes in. She's like, okay, ask your questions. Like, whatever. Yeah. And so he asked the questions. And then she's, like, about to leave. And he, like, closes the door. I was like, ah.
Yeah.
Like, it was just crazy.
That was, I thought it was very hot. I thought it was, And one thing I will say, I said this afterwards, though, I'm like, I really would like to see Nicole, like, I think Nicole Kidman did a phenomenal job in this role. Like, her acting was superb. But I would really like to see her branch out of this. I think she's been typecast into this, like, wealthy white woman role. I'm like, now I don't think I could picture her in, like, I live in middle class and I'm, like struggling to pay my mortgage or whatever. Like, she gives off wealth.
Well, so she was nominated for a Golden Globe for this movie, and I don't know if she'll be nominated for an Oscar necessarily, but at the time I was like, interesting for her to be nominated for a Golden Globe for it, but I realized like her acting actually was very good in this movie.
It's probably the best thing I've seen her in.
I was thinking like the scene that you were describing earlier where, you know, like their first like scene in the hotel room, it was literally a sex scene, but her acting in it was so good.
And I was thinking about it earlier where it's like, you know, I think sex scenes in general might be difficult to film, but I think they're difficult to film when you're bringing in like that level of emotionality because you don't see him. It's just her face having like a spectrum of emotions the whole time. Whereas like I think like sex scenes in other movies are just like, oh, this is hot. Yeah. Like we're having sex or whatever. Where this is like, oh, this is a deeply emotional thing happening just with this woman. Like, sure, this guy is a part of it, but he doesn't really know or understand. Like, it's just very, like... And I was like, she deserves to win something for just that scene alone.
Yeah, and I've always felt, like, I don't know how you feel. I think Nicole Kidman is I mean, she's iconic, obviously, but I always felt like she was maybe a tad bit overrated because there's certain things, like I remember when she was cast as Lucille Ball in that movie, and I was so angry about that because I was like, Lucille Ball is known for being having so much expression and just such a like, you know, just a facial, like her face is like a lot, her acting is her facial features. Yeah. Her facial expressions. And I just was like, Nicole Kidman to me is like known for kind of being
reserved a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little stone like not super. And so I never saw that movie. I don't know. But I don't feel like she was really the right role for that. No. But like, and so I've always kind of felt maybe she's a little bit overrated. I don't think she is that. There's other actors who I think are better.
Oh, for sure.
I thought she was great in Big Little Lies, but even that she played kind of a similar role.
Yeah, she was. I can't remember the one that she did with Hugh Grant. Was a good show, but still a similar role. Similar role in what was the one we watched recently?
The Perfect Couple. And I was gonna say, I mean, she was good in that, but again, similar role. Like I didn't think she was phenomenal.
And the thing is, we talked about this outside of the theater. Like she never really loses her Australian accent.
I was gonna say,
like her American accent, I'll be honest, is not great.
It's not great. It's like but in The Perfect Couple, she's Australian in real life. We probably talked about this when we talked about The Perfect Couple, but she's Australian in real life. She was British on that show. So she went between an Australian accent, a British accent, and an American accent in that one role. So it was like, and even in this movie, in Babygirl, it was like you could fully hear her Australian inflection.
You can, like, on everything. Like, it's just like these weird, like, little flecks of whatever where you're just like, whoa, that's an interesting. Whatever.
But that being said, I did think she was really good in this. So I understand why she was nominated now. Like, I agree with that. Yeah. But yeah. I know what I was going to ask you. How do you feel about Harris Dickinson's?
Okay, I was going to say, I think he did a really good job, but also, like, that role, like, his character, I think, could have been played by anyone, honestly. Yeah. Like, there wasn't a lot to it, which I think was the purpose, but...
He's one of those people who I've always been a fan of. Like, I've always just, like, really loved him, and I don't fully know why, because I don't think he's, like, a spectacular actor. He's never blown me away in any role he's been in. I did like him in Triangle of Sadness. Like, I thought he was good in that, but I didn't think... Like, his acting's never blown me away, but something about him... And I will say... To this day, I consider myself an OG Harris Dickinson. I don't know if there's something that he's, like, really, really known for, like, from years ago. I've heard people say there's one movie that he was in. It was, like, Beach... I don't know. But there was one show that I would see the preview for, and I never saw... Like, I never watched it, but it was a preview of something he was in. Literally, like, Hilary Swank was in it. It was, like, years ago. Like, years ago. And I remember seeing him in the preview and being like, who is that? Like, oh, my goodness. And so I've just followed him ever since. And again, I didn't even watch that show. But, like... I just, like, every time I saw him in something, I'm like, that's the guy.
What's weird is, like, he's hot, but in this role, like, they put him in this oversized jacket, and his haircut is, like, he looks like he works as, like, a corporate intern, you know?
Yes, yeah. And he looked kind of, I don't mean to comment on people's appearances, but both of them looked a little bit gaunt.
What does that mean?
Well, he looked gaunt. She's very thin. She's very
thin. Okay. They're both just, like, tall, bony people.
Bony, yeah, I guess. And so it was just interesting because he doesn't always look like that, but I do really like him. I saw somebody make an observation about him because he did he was in like a video for like, it was like Prada or something. I don't know. And somebody was like, I feel like if I were in a room with him, like we just would not vibe. And she was like, not that I don't like him, I just feel like we would have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, even like watching some of the interviews for this, like I was like,
he doesn't really have a lot of chemistry, I didn't think.
No, and he doesn't have he just doesn't seem like a very high energy person at all. Like he'd just be like even the one that I sent you where I was like, what's the most baby girl thing about me? He was like, well, I don't know. Like I just learned what that means, and I was like,
he's not super charismatic, but again, there's something about him that I really like. Like I don't think he's a phenomenal actor or anything, but I still I really like him.
I agree. And I saw him in Where the Crawdads Sing. Yes. I saw him in Murder at the End of the World. I saw him in this, and then I saw him in Triangle of Sadness. And I will say I think those characters are all like 85% the same.
I know. Well, it's weird because like in Where the Crawdads Sing, he's like his character's very evil, but I still can't remember him being evil. Like that part
I can only remember one scene. It was like a ridiculous scene where they punched the guy and we all started laughing.
Oh yeah. Well, there's also a scene where he runs up and he's like, Kai, I just made manager of something. So, like he was like the manager of like some car dealership. I don't know. But he's he was in the Iron Claw as well.
Oh yes, yeah. Which again, I think it's the same. Like
his
he plays
acting
these
didn't
kind of like
super stand out to me.
It's always like a character that doesn't like talk a lot, a little bit
Yes.
stoic, a little bit mysterious. Like it's not. And I'm like, I think it's just him, maybe.
Maybe, but and something about him is
Yeah.
obviously good. I don't know what it is exactly, but I'm a fan. I like him a lot, and I've seen him in interviews where he's funny, but I just not like a ton of personality.
Right.
But that being said, I think in the movie they had great chemistry. When I see interviews of the two of them, I don't think it's
Yeah, and
off
I
the
think
wall
it's interesting. He
necessarily.
said he was really nervous for the father figure scene. So there's this whole scene where it's like the second time they're in like this nice hotel room, and you just see him. He's just dancing to like the father figure song, and he was like, "That was the scene I was most nervous for," which is like, I guess that makes
he's like
sense.
shirtless and he's like really like dancing
which
with
the music in the movie, like you said, top notch, was great.
yeah.
So we had a question of the week this week, which was, what is the most baby girl thing about you? Right?
Yeah.
Is that how you phrased it? I can't remember.
Yeah, what's the most baby girl thing about you?
And so if you don't know, like, how would you describe that? Like,
I feel like it's just like what makes you kind of like, I feel like it has different meanings, but like what makes you kind of like have like soft qualities, like people take care of you, like what makes you kind of like cute or whatever. Like people use it for, if they're talking about men now, like they'll be like, oh my gosh, Pedro Pascal is so baby girl.
Yeah.
Because it's like he has like this, he kind of has like, he'll show his like soft qualities or whatever. So like I'll start with mine, I guess, like just to give an example. But I feel like my most baby girl quality, and I have a lot, I think, but I think my main one is that I like to be like driven. Like I like to be the passenger princess.
yes.
Like
I've never been in your car.
Yes, you have actually. That's not true.
When?
Well, one time we were driving to somebody's house and I picked you up. Like I was driving there, you were walking.
Oh, the house that's in my neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay, so I've been in, so for 0.5 seconds, yes.
Yeah, and I did drive you. But to be fair, I do sometimes offer. It's just I'm typically more on the way. Yeah. You know, whenever we're going somewhere.
It's fine. I like driving, but I was just saying, that is very,
I know, but
like,
I feel bad.
You
but
don't
like,
feel bad.
like
It's
Megan
fine.
always makes fun. She's like, obviously I'll drive or whatever. But Megan also loves driving, so.
I thought it's not meant to make you feel bad. I'm just like, that's very accurate.
Yeah, but I'm self-conscious. I don't want people to think I'm not offering. But it is like clear. I'm not a great driver. Like I'll just say that. I've
never really seen you drive, but I feel like you'd probably be fine. You probably are very patient. Like you're not going to be like, I'm going to gun it through this.
No, people get like people in the car with me will just be like, Molly, like I would have like glared my horn. I don't know what the word is.
Blasted.
See, I don't even know because I don't ever do that. But and also just like I like when people like do things for me.
I could see that, yeah.
Like I wish Megan were here right now, but like she would know. But like she one time washed like a coffee cup for me, and ever since then like I like want her to wash my coffee. Like if we're at work, I'm saying.
I was thinking about when we went to Charlottesville for Megan's birthday, and we were all kind of drunk trying to move this like futon couch for you to sleep on, and you like were laughing so hard because you're like, guys, I'm not like, you were like pretending to, you're like, I'm not lifting
not
it.
At all touching that bed.
Megan and I were like,
lifting it, and I was standing with you guys as we like moved it, but I was not contributing.
And you were like giggling. You were like, guys, I'm not really lifting it at all. And we were like, yeah, we know. Like it's fine. No, that makes sense.
I feel like I'm a baby.
Yeah. I feel like the most baby girl thing about me, and this is like poor timing to say considering, so my cat just died last weekend, but I think is like my love of animals, I think is my like biggest soft spot. Like I think it makes,
that's a good one.
It is like literally and we'll get to this, we were watching like the Wallace and Gromit thing, and there's a scene where Gromit's the dog, right?
Yeah.
Where he like falls off the
stop. And
I literally was like, if this dog dies, which I knew it wouldn't because it's Wallace and Gromit, but I was like, I'm gonna scream. Like I can't, like Chris and I were watching The Wire, which if you don't know is about like Baltimore like drug rings, and the whole time I'm like, people are dying left and right, and they like shoot this dog, and I literally was like, oh my god, like I like flipped out, and Chris was like, you just saw 5 children get shot, and I was like, I don't care.
Oh my god,
the dog. So I think that's my like baby girl thing.
Did you get upset at Nosferatu when he like ate the bird?
Yes.
You
did? I
did.
did. Both like for like disgusting things. I was like, that bird. That poor bird.
I guess.
Oh, you don't like birds. That's right. I love all living creatures, even the rats.
Very good. You love the rats, really? If a rat just walked in here right now, you wouldn't be upset?
No, I'd obviously be upset. I'd live here, but I'm like, I don't want to like bite its head off, you know?
Well, I wouldn't either.
You know, but anyways, yeah, so those are our...
That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean to attack your Babygirlism.
No, I didn't feel attacked at all.
Okay, good.
I feel like our Babygirl thing is always thinking people are mad at us.
Yes,
that's for both of us. That's our communal Babygirl sensitivities.
I'm like, please don't be mad at me.
I literally, like, the other day I asked someone, I was like, you ever worry that your pets are mad at you? And they were like, no.
Oh, I worry all the time.
Yeah. I'm always like, wow, does this dog who has the best life ever hate me?
Yeah.
And that's just me.
worry that my bear is mad at me sometimes.
Your bear?
Yeah.
Oh, the stuffed thing?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
What did you just call Horatio?
Well, I didn't want to say, like, the stuffed bear, because that's, like, implied by when you said...
That thing?
When you said bear. Okay, yes, but I forgot
Matthew
that you
gets mad.
I forgot his name was Horatio.
Because he would, like, sleep in our bed if, like, Matthew allowed it.
He doesn't allow it? Wow. That bear was sleeping in your bed long before he was.
I know. And so, and he'll, like, kind of, like, not actually do mean things to him, but like he's
your elf on the shelf.
He won't, but like he'll like I'll like try to make Matthew like hug Horatio. I'm like, please just like give him a hug or like like give him a high five or something, and he like doesn't want to, and it makes me really upset. Like I'm really scared that Horatio is like sad.
I mean, I don't love that for you, but I love that you have that little connection.
Oh, I do. I do give what do you call that when you give like objects like
something permanence or something?
Object permanence?
Yeah.
Is that what that is? I don't know.
This isn't an English podcast.
Yeah, we're not here for
we're talking about pop culture, you know.
Anyway.
So you put this topic on here. I don't really know anything about it, but what is the Robbie Williams monkey movie?
You have seen the preview, Alexa. You had to have.
Oh, the weird one
the
where
CGI'd
like I couldn't
monkey.
stop laughing.
I don't know. So it's basically,
and I'll say it again. Too many monkey movies.
There are. Well, now there's a movie about a pop star.
Yes.
And it's a CGI chimpanzee.
What? Like, have you seen it?
The movie?
Yeah.
No, no one has. So, okay, here's what I'm going to talk about. So, it's called Better Man, and it's basically a biopic about the singer Robbie Williams. He's a British pop singer.
Yeah.
And it's like a biopic. As we've said, a lot of us are kind of tired of biopics.
Yeah.
I am. I know a lot of people are. But this one...
I'm still very excited for the Beatles one, but...
I am too. That's different because I love that cast. But
I love the Beatles.
I love the Beatles. Okay, yeah. And also it's like interesting that it's 4 separate movies.
I think you have to do it that
so
way.
Interesting.
I think it would be shortchanged if you weren't. But anyways, back to the monkey. Can you imagine if they did the Beatles bio
with monkeys?
It's like John, Paul, and Ringo are just monkeys.
So, yes, but... So that's what they try to do here. They're like, oh, biopic, but with a twist. This biopic goes bananas.
Ew.
And it's literally like a CGI'd monkey.
I remember like that the trailer came on. It was like we all went to go see something. I can't remember what it was. And like Chris and I just like I turned to him. I was like, pay attention to this trailer. You're gonna enjoy
ridiculous.
yourself.
And a clip from it pops up on my TikTok all the time, and it's of. First of all, I want to point out if anyone's seen this one clip, you know what I'm talking about. If you're on TikTok, like it always shows up, and I watched the entire video every single time, because first of all, it freaks me out. So it's like watching like a train crash. Like it's like it like freaks me out, but I can't look away because it's like this ugly like. CGI, like it's awful looking.
Yeah.
They come out of it's like a musical because he's a singer. They come busting out of this door. A woman is walking the clip starts with a woman walking by and she gets smacked in the face by a door banging open. Watch it. It's crazy. That alone makes me not want to watch this movie. This woman gets hit in the face with a door and we're supposed to just watch this monkey dancing? I don't know. It makes me angry. This woman got hit in the face.
Watch those monkey moves, and she's like in an ambulance.
This woman got hit in the face. Like, watch it. Anybody who
she's been beheaded, and this monkey.
No,
just
it really bothers me. And she yelps in pain too. She goes, ah. It's really upsetting to me.
Then she slips on a banana, and she's like,
bothers me.
Those monkeys.
So you might not like this movie because it's about like basically a monkey doing cocaine and going through substance abuse issues.
See, okay, here's the difference is like in this setting, like the monkey is basically a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it's I get upset when it's like a genuine animal, you know, getting like for example, Planet of the Apes. I didn't cry for any of those apes, you know, because I'm like, well, these are basically people.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say, I don't want to say like I don't care about people, but
Yeah.
I guess probably not as much as animals, I guess. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm like, okay, he has like the sense of speech to do. He has a sense of mind to do cocaine off a table willingly.
No, okay. So I will say the reason.
Fuck that monkey.
So here's the thing. So the movie is about Robbie Williams' life. So it's a biopic again, like, but it's like a CGI monkey is playing Robbie Williams.
Do you know like what the creative decision behind that was?
So I've seen two different things. I saw the director say that he was basically like, you would get sad seeing a monkey do cocaine, and he was like, so I think that was like one reason was like, you like they wanted to make him a monkey because it's like you kind of watch like a biopic and they all have the same formula, because unfortunately that is kind of the way that these lives go, is like you become super famous very quickly, you don't know how to handle it, and they end up dealing with like substance abuse issues. But he was like, I feel like to make it kind of different and like to make you sort of like really see the sadness of it, I guess, like you wouldn't feel as sad seeing like just a human doing it, but he was like, but it makes it kind of different to see like a monkey, like almost like a helpless monkey doing cocaine. So it's sort of like that, but then I saw another thing that it was like a different reason, so I don't know what the answer is.
The thing is, I don't see it as a helpless monkey. I'm like, it's just a person.
It's Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
So first of all, do you know who Robbie Williams is? Like, had you ever heard of him before this?
The name is familiar.
That's how,
he in
yeah.
Wham?
No, he's a British pop singer. I honestly could not tell you, except for the song Better Man, I guess. Like, I don't know really any of his music. And that's because he was a member of the pop group Take That. That's like how he became famous. And then he launched like a solo career and he became super famous. So he's very famous in the UK.
Okay.
And can you move that actually?
Oh, sorry.
And most people know him in the UK. So a lot of people in the US don't know him. I've heard his name. Like, I know of him, but I couldn't tell you like really one song he sings. Like, a lot of people in the US don't know who he is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange to like release a biopic and like put a lot of money into something when people don't really in America know him.
Is he alive?
Yeah.
Can you imagine like getting a biopic made of you and they're like, but it's a monkey?
So it's made on a production budget of $110 million. That
pisses me off.
It's made $10 million worldwide. That's worldwide. Domestic. So Paramount paid $25 million for the domestic rights, and it grossed $1.1 million. It is a box office bomb. Bomb. And
that is crazy.
And I think a lot of that is because like nobody in the US really knows who he is. Like, again, I know of him, and some people probably like might hear this and be like, what? Like, Robbie, what? But like, I would say the majority of us don't know who he is.
I think the main problem is that it's a monkey.
And it's also, the monkey thing is like creepy looking.
I didn't know it was about Robbie Williams. Like, I've seen that trailer a bunch of times, and I was just like, I was like, oh, a monkey who's a star.
By the way, it's getting great reviews. Like, it has like an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm sure it is. Like, I'm sure it is a good movie. Unfortunately, like, first of all, I don't like biopics.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get me to see one. Like, it was so hard to get me to see A Complete Unknown.
Yeah, and that was
a good
human
movie. Yeah.
Can you imagine if they had Bob Dylan as a monkey?
So offensive. Somehow that's like super offensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I just think like, so it's like a biopic, but also the monkey is like, it freaks me out that he's a monkey. Like, it just looks weird.
But no one else is a monkey in it, right?
It's just him.
Why?
Well, I told you why.
I know, but I'm just like, and it just, they spent so much money on it.
I heard the plot, and it's like, it is the same formula. It's like the same story as Elton John, the same story as whoever. Like, they all have the same, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
They're insanely talented, but they deal with these like issues because they can't handle the fame, and like, okay. But it's like still like so boring to me, and it doesn't make it better that he's a monkey. It just doesn't. Like,
why
I don't
would
care.
It? Honestly,
yeah.
What animal would you like to see portrayed in a biopic?
Now that could have been our question of the week.
That would have been we're posing it to you right now, listeners.
Well, probably like a little fluffy puppy.
Okay, yeah, that'd be cute.
A little purse, like a puppy that fits in a purse.
Okay, now hear me out.
A squirrel, actually a squirrel.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah. Because I am a squirrel.
I think a walrus would be fun because of the limitations.
So I can't really hear that because one of the most traumatic movies of my entire lifetime. Do you know this movie?
What is it? No, what?
It's called Tusk.
No.
Oh my god, it has Justin Long in it. Alexa, do yourself a favor and don't look this up after I tell you about it. But it's a movie called Tusk where
animals get harmed?
Well, first of all, I have a fear of people being turned into animals. And I don't mean I don't mean magically. I mean like they're physically like put into an animal's body.
How would that not? Oh, you mean like sewn up into a body?
He is turned into by a doctor.
Midsummer.
Those scenes bother me.
Okay.
Genuinely, like, yeah. And he's made into, it's like almost a comedy, but it's like it is like a body horror. Like I hate body horror. So it's like it is like a horror movie, but he's turned into a walrus. And at the end of the movie, he's a walrus, but he's still a human. But he's in a walrus, like his body has been turned into the body of a walrus. So he's in a zoo, but he's human still. Like, is that not the scariest thing you've ever heard?
Sounds awful.
I'm getting really upset talking about it.
I think Justin Long does give walrus vibes, and I don't have like any additional info on that.
The only thing I can say to that is this weekend, I've been in a Bill Skarsgård. Like, I have watched so much Bill Skarsgård content. Okay. I don't know why. I saw a show on Netflix. Great show, by the way. It was called Clark. It's all in Swedish. I watched this entire Swedish show because of Bill Skarsgård. It was great, though.
You know what I don't understand is when... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say really quickly. Then after... Because Matthew was watching a little bit of it with me, and he was like... we should watch Barbarian next. And so we did. And then Justin Long is in that, and he's actually very funny in that movie.
I never understand when people are like, oh, yeah, like I learned a second language by watching TV. And I'm like, okay, are you watching it with the captions? Because I watch a lot of caption TV, and I'm not learning it. But I'm like, if you're not watching it with, like, if you're watching it without the captions, how are you learning the language? Because I've tried, like, I sit there and I'm like, I don't fucking know what they're saying. How's it happening? And I've heard this like so many times.
They meant dubbed, but dubbed, I can't stand dubbed things. I have to watch
sometimes.
Captions.
Okay, I will say the Shogun dub. We tried it for like a hot second. I was like, this is actually the best dub I've ever seen.
Well, for Clark, it was weird because again, it was like Bill Skarsgård plays the main character, and he was dubbed, and I was like, well, I want to hear Bill Skarsgård's voice. You know what I mean? Also, it's actually a very interesting show if you ever care to watch a Swedish show. Because it's actually it's about a real person, and it's where the term Stockholm Syndrome came from.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. We're not here to talk about that.
No.
But I just wanted to say, don't even know how I got on the topic. Oh, animals.
Yeah.
So don't be a walrus. Think of something else.
Okay, my second one would be like maybe an ostrich.
Oh my god, you're picking the scariest animals.
I just think that'd be wild, you know? Like, or I'm trying to think of a dolphin.
I like that actually.
Or a dolphin because they're really intelligent. But again, I like the limitations of the water. I would like to see creatively what does someone do with that?
That's cool.
They have to bring the recording studio to the ocean.
No. What you do is you're kind of like Sandy from SpongeBob. You come within just like everybody pushes you in you're like a pool of water, and people just have to like push you to and from places. Yeah.
That's how you know you're a star.
Funny. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People are pushing you to and from in your own little water bubble.
What would you call your biopic?
Oh, I didn't know the biopic is is it of me, or I'm just saying starring a dolphin?
It's about you, but it's like a CGI dolphin is playing you.
Catch you on the flip.
Mine would be called Go Nuts.
Oh, I love that.
Thanks. I actually I will say I like the name Better Man because it's like he's a monkey, he's not a man.
Oh,
and he's becoming a better man.
Okay.
I'm sure it is a good movie, but it's just terrifying. So
yeah,
and also
I have no interest.
We don't care about Robbie. Well, we don't know Robbie Williams, and you can make the argument we'll watch the movie and you'll learn about him. Why would I do that?
I don't really want to see biopics of people I know.
Yeah,
keep it in my realm, you know.
Exactly.
I'm gonna refill. We're drinking a Barefoot Riesling. Would you like to top off? To top off?
Sure.
Catch on the flip.
Go Nuts.
Aw.
They should have named this movie Go Bananas.
I was thinking that. Or just the sounds of chimps.
They should have called it Monkeying Around.
I was when we were Complete Unknown, I was what if they had Johnny Cash just as an ape? Like the whole cast is just, it's literally Planet of the Apes, but it's just like 1960s New York.
Well, it kind of reminds me of when people talk about like what movie could they turn into like a Muppets movie where it's just like one person is the human and then everyone else is the Muppets. And I just saw one recently where they were like Nosferatu would have been a good one for that because they're all Muppets except for Willem Dafoe's character. He's just still Willem Dafoe.
Oh, interesting.
And everyone else is a bunch of Muppets.
Ooh, what would be my Muppet movie? This is a tough one.
Yeah. Think on it.
Okay, I'll let you know.
All right. So that's all I had to say about the Robbie Williams movie. I just thought it was pretty crazy.
Well, I've been educated and I will not be watching.
That's fine. I won't be either.
Yeah. So I guess, so for our next topic, I don't know a lot about it, but I know you've done some reading on it, and I guess we should say like another trigger warning for some sensitive topics.
Yes, and this is like this story contains graphic sexual assault and so yeah, just trigger warning. If you need to skip it because we'll be kind of talking. I mean, I don't think we'll go into like detail or anything, but just to kind of cover the story that's kind of broke.
Okay.
So basically some serious allegations from multiple women have come out about the author Neil Gaiman, who you know of him, right? Yeah. I mean, I think
he did Stardust. He did
Sandman.
Yeah, Good Omens. He's like an iconic like
he also
science
wrote Coraline,
fiction.
Which like I loved Coraline as a kid. Like I never realized he wrote that, but yeah,
he's a
like
huge name author.
Yeah, he's an English author. He's almost I really didn't know this until today. Just the extent he's almost like a rock star. Like he's like if an author were a rock star. Like women fall to their like fans of his would like fall to their knees in front of him like crying when he'd come to like conventions and stuff.
It's like if you can get his like snippet on the outside of your book being like, this is a great book, it's like you're done, you're good, you're good to go, you're set.
And so, and like the show, I never read Good Omens, but the show is fantastic. I loved the show.
I've been meaning to read the book.
I know I think Sandman is probably his biggest one, and so they just recently made a Netflix series, I believe, based on it. Never watched the show, but he's a very he's a huge author.
He did American Gods too, which also had like a really big show that people loved. He did Norse mythology, like you said, Coraline. Mm-hmm. Anyways, this is just
yeah. So a while ago, some like back over the summer, like in July, some allegations came out. Tortoise Media broke the news that he had been accused of sexual assault by 2 women, and then there was like a 6-part podcast called Master. It covered the allegations of 5 women, but some of the women kind of only used like pseudonyms, and it wasn't like they were like protecting their identities. But today, a Vulture magazine piece titled "There Is No Safe Word." Basically, it came out, and it follows the account of like 8 women who all kind of have very similar stories about this man. Like, and he is, I mean, again, you know, according to these allegations, like he's a sick man. I mean, like truly, like some really graphic sexual assault. So I would say the article like really closely follows a woman named Scarlett Pavlovich. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. But she the story mainly follows her, but then it also goes into like other accounts of women.
Okay.
And it basically talks about she explains that the first time that she met Neil Gaiman was basically through his wife at the time. It's now his ex-wife. They're going through a nasty divorce. Her name is Amanda Palmer. She's, I think, a singer. And they met in New Zealand, and they struck up this friendship. And basically, they became really close because both Amanda Palmer and Neil Gaiman had like big fans, and they sort of treated their fans as like friendships. Like their fans were like, they made everyone feel like special. You know what I mean? Like when Neil Gaiman would talk to people at like conventions and stuff, people felt really special when they talked to him. Like he would give them like, he was very like, kind of like the way he writes, like I think his voice was very like, you know, comforting and warm and kind of made people feel like, ooh, like, and that's what made people so attracted to him and also just kind of in love with him. Because again, I think like people are sort of attracted to people based on their work. So like if you loved his writing, which I think you mentioned, like he's like has kind of a sci-fi but like fantasy writer, and again, I mean, like I loved Coraline as a kid, and so that's kind of the only thing I can think of that I read. But he is great. Yeah. Great writer.
Yeah, I really liked Stardust. I liked Coraline. I've read a few things I like.
Yeah, and so anyway, basically Palmer asked this Pavlovich to babysit their kid, and then it kind of turned from there because Pavlovich like didn't have a lot of money. She was basically homeless. It was sort of during the pandemic, so it turned into
is recent.
Yes, in the last like few years, it turned into her basically staying with them, and taking care of their kid. And then like during that time, at one point, he sexually assaulted her. And the thing is, I think what people kind of have to remember is like with sexual assault cases, like it's hard for people. It's it's the most complicated form of abuse because like people don't know sometimes that it even is sexual assault until later.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of her story, but basically she talks about, like, he immediately, like, made her uncomfortable, but, like, again, she kind of was relying on them for money and for, like, a
shelter
home. So, and so she felt like she didn't really know it was, like, she knew she was uncomfortable. She did tell him no, but then she kind of, you know, it was complicated. And so then, like, multiple other women who ended up, sleeping with him were also put in situations where they like weren't really consenting to it, and he would make them call him master and like just a lot of weird stuff. I mean, it gets really graphic. I won't go into detail. If you want to read the Vulture article, it's
I'll be reading that.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty graphic. So he was like he's a very sick man. But the weird thing is like the Amanda Palmer, his wife, was like almost like it felt like borderline Ghislaine kind of thing, where it was like she she knew what he was like because she had dealt with, like, you know, she admitted, like, yeah, at one point the girl Scarlett like comes to her and tells her what's been happening, and she's like, yeah, like 8 other women have told me this.
Yeah.
And so and at one point she had like, there was like a text where somebody that was close to them said that she had told Neil, like, don't touch this one, like she is really like a broken person, you should not mess with her. But it felt like a lot of people felt like she was kind of almost like handing them to him. Yeah. Like the women who had met him, had met her, she would like sort of introduce them to her. Like they almost kind of had like a weird thing where it was like,
this is literally just speculation. This is the first I'm hearing of this, but maybe it was something where it was like, oh, if he is like treating them that way, then he's not gonna like, he'll be too busy to like treat me poorly. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. I mean, I kind of wonder because she did have relationships with some of the women herself. So I do wonder if like maybe it turned into a thing. Like, because one thing he says is he was attracted to her because he was like, oh, I know I'll never be bored with her, because she was very out there. She's very authentic, kind of lived a bohemian lifestyle. And so I think like from what I'm gathering, it was like she would sort of like she would be kind of excited to introduce the women to him. Yeah. And then it got to a point where she wasn't, I don't know. But some of the stuff, I mean, he would do stuff to these women in front of his son. So, I mean, I don't want to go into like a lot of detail, but like if you read the article, it goes into detail. It's very well written too. I'll say the reporter's name.
And I think
it was Lila Shapiro. Lila Shapiro. But it goes, all of the women kind of had similar stories. Yeah. And so it's very much goes into also the BDSM community, I guess, or the idea of BDSM, and how like if you don't really know about it, maybe all this stuff wouldn't seem really bad because it would just seem like that's what it is. But they kind of go over the whole thing of like BDSM has to be like 2 people consenting, and that's a lot of the women felt like it wasn't. So
and it kind of goes into, I think we've talked about when we talked about like the Quiet on Set stuff and the like the Diddy stuff, where it's just like people who get to this level of fame, and I would say Neil Gaiman is like top of the literary fame like circle right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I feel like and I'm not saying this is everyone, but it's also like you need to check like your like famous, like, you know, like there's people where it's like, oh, I love them, I'm obsessed with them or whatever. But I think in the back of your mind now, especially for me, like whenever it's like I really love this famous person, there's always like I hope they are actually like a good person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it seems like more often than not they aren't.
Yeah.
To get to the like fame and like whatever, and I think a lot of times like you see like the biggest people, like maybe they seem like a good person or they just have a really good legal team.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
I think to get to like the level of fame that a lot of these people have gotten to, usually there's other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I now we're in like a world where I think that stuff gets brought to light more often.
And if you're not really familiar with that world, because I'm, you know, I didn't, again, like I've read like one of his books, but I didn't know, and I know I love Good Omens, like, so I knew his name, but I didn't realize like how huge he was. And so he goes to these conventions, and like this one girl recounts, like at one point she meets him, she goes up to him and he's like, well, I have to walk to this place. Like she's a fan. She introduces herself to him and he's like, well, I need to walk to somewhere. Like, I want you to walk with me. And so, cause he's like, I don't want to walk there alone. And she said that like she was walking with him. And like I said, like women were throwing themselves in front of him. Like he was being like mobbed basically by people. And she was like, oh, I'm not ready to like defend this man. Yeah. Like I can't. She was like, I was not prepared for that level of like fame that he had.
And I would say he's one of the few authors where it's like I do know what he looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where
exactly.
It's like, you can
and he is like a very attractive man.
Yeah, for what he is, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is, because they mentioned that. They said, like, he is almost kind of this, like, because he's kind of this, like, gothic, like, he wears all black, and he's sort of, like...
Mysterious,
and, I
think he has all his hair.
And you're right, like... I do know what he looks like, because I've seen him do interviews for
he's all over
stuff, and then also just like I've seen photos of him.
Whereas it's like, who's the guy who writes a billion like mystery spy novels, like the Alex Cross novels? James Patterson.
Yeah.
I don't know what he looks like.
I couldn't tell you what he looks like.
And maybe it's because he's not hot. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Whereas I like Neil Gaiman. It's like I've known for years what he looks like,
and it's
sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Like, I think he is one of those people where, again, you have to be a little bit suspicious. Like, I think you see, like, a lot, especially in the literary sphere, like, a lot of them are, like, kind of recluse. Like, they, you know, and that doesn't mean that makes you, like, a better person, but he seems like the type of person who wants the attention.
Yes, and it made me really realize, like, because
power.
He does these, like, conventions, and... So he's putting himself out there, and like, you could look at it as, like, wow, he loves his fans, he really cares about his fans, and that's, like, he and both, like, his ex-wife, like, they both are, like, she sees her fans, like, she doesn't see a difference between, like, fans and friends, like, she's like, she's like, you're my friend, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of, some people might look at that and be like, wow, like, that's great, and it's like,
yeah.
I don't know, let's maybe, like, look at that because they're now taking advantage of people. And it made me really question, like, people who do those conventions. I know a lot of people do them, like, a lot of celebrities might do those for money. But I think, like, when people, like, it's also, there's something almost, like, terrifying about the way that people are, like, so excited to, like, I mean, they charge so much money for their fans to meet them. And there's almost, like, something kind of weird about that. Like, I sometimes think that with, like, those conventions, like... I know you got to do what you got to do for money because, like, actors don't necessarily make, like, a ton of money or any of those people. But, like, I just think there's something about then they do these they sit in the halls and they do, like, interviews and, like, I don't know. There's just something about, like, just knowing that they have these, like, adoring fans out there that are just, like, you know, I don't know. There's just something almost, like, a little weird about it.
And the thing is, again, like, bringing it back to the fact that it's, like, kind of like the literary world where it's, like, you don't see that super often.
Yeah.
Like, you see it with, like, Stephanie Meyer, J.K. Rowling,
right.
Sarah J. Maas now. And, you know, I think, like, it's interesting because we've been seeing this, like, cancel culture, Me Too movement happening, like, in Hollywood, and then we've been seeing it in music, and we've been seeing it in all these, like, big industries. But I feel like it happens more in, like, these big literary spheres than you realize, but people aren't thinking about it that way because, like, literature isn't, like, some big glamorous thing, but it's, like, it is a big part of the world and culture and media and life in general, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's interesting to see, like, that's now, like, that type of realm is kind of coming to light.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's not one I thought about before, but it is interesting because, again, like, his writing is very beautiful and very powerful to people. It speaks to people. So it kind of showed, because, again, a lot of these women were, like, fans of his, and that's where one of them was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it just shows, like, the power that he...
And it's a lot of power when people are, like, an adoring fan of yours. I think it's easy to take advantage of that.
It is. And, like, so the main girl that's kind of featured in the article, or, discussed, like, whose story is, like, recounted in the article, she, again, she met him through the ex-wife. But, like, it's interesting with her because her story... It really does. I feel like the article explains sexual abuse very well, because it's not black and white. Like, her thing is, like, kind of complicated because, again, she at one point reassures him that she consented, and that she's like, no, like, everything's fine. Like, like, yeah, we did. Because he's like, yeah, I'm hearing that, like, you're saying I made you uncomfortable, and, like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought you consented or whatever to it. And she's like, no, I did, like, and she's trying to make him feel better, and she signed an NDA at one point, and, like, it isn't until later that she realized, looking back, what all she endured, and, like, again, and talking to other people, I imagine, probably helped, but, she, like, who went through the same thing that she did, but it's interesting, because I think you could read the article and maybe have thoughts of, like, I was kind of thinking as I was reading it, like, his team would probably read that and be like, oh, like, now she's saying, she did consent. And so it is complicated. I'm curious because, so the whole thing is, like, he says his ex-wife, is doing this for their divorce or whatever. Like, she made all of this come out, and, but I'm like, I don't know. I think it kind of backfired if it did, because she is now looked at as, like, really bad too. Because she basically brought, I mean, it's like the two of them are
I doubt it, because the thing is, you can't, like, once those wheels are in motion, you can't stop them. And if she had any part in any of it, like, that would be so stupid on her part to be like,
I know,
to put it out there. But who knows?
It's interesting. But I mean, so his, like, whole, even before today, his a show he was supposed to have, like, got canceled. Like, his career is definitely being destroyed.
As it
should be. Yeah. He sounds, I mean, I think this is definitely a situation. It's not like he said, she said. I think it's fair to say he is not a good person.
Yeah.
And so many women are,
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what else comes of it, but I'm glad, like, that people have spoken out, and, like, maybe people will have a similar experience, like you said, like, maybe you don't realize it until you hear from others, and then you're like, actually, that was really messed up, and I'm really upset about it.
Especially when it's, like, a long series of events. Like, it's not just, like, one...
And it's confusing,
It's confusing, yeah. And she, like I said, this girl, like, relied on them for her home, and it's very complicated, but... Yeah. Anyway, the article is really interesting, so definitely give it a read.
I definitely will. So, in other news, one of the biggest shows in the world came out this past week, Squid Games Season 2. Woo! You don't watch it.
I don't. I watched the first episode, and I, like, the first episode of the first season, like, when it came out, and I couldn't get into it.
Interesting.
But I know it's good. I just, for some reason, I just personally couldn't really
I think, like,
stick
it
with
is one of those things, like, where maybe it took an episode or two, but I will say, like, this season was really, like, held its own in terms of...
Really?
Because I think, like, maybe, like, I heard, like, some, like, a bad review on NPR where they were like, oh, it's just needless violence. And I was like, well, I mean, that's, like, like, the show, but I don't think it's needless. I think so, if you haven't seen, like, Squid Games Season 2, so it picks up where Season 1 left off, obviously, where it's, the main character, he's trying to, like, get back at the people who run Squid Games. So he's, like, devised this whole plan, etc., etc., and this is not a spoiler because it's literally, like, in the trailer, he ends up back in the games. And I will say, like, first of all, I think I should have rewatched Season 1 because I was kind of, like, trying to remember some of the storylines and stuff, and that came out, like, 3 years ago, and I think like luckily season 3, which they've already filmed it, so I don't think it'll be as big of a jump in between it. But I think like this season the characters were really well done. There's like this whole situation where it's like a mom and a son accidentally like get put in together. There's this guy who's like, he's a Korean rapper, and the whole time he's just like, he's like kind of a ridiculous character, but sometimes he says like words in English that you're just like, oh, this feels weird. Why are you doing it? Like, he just says like these dumb little raps or whatever. But I think like it really, really touches into, like, it's an entertaining show, but I think it really gets into like the humanity of it all. And I was telling, like, Chris and I were watching it together, and I can't remember which scene it was, but there was one where I was like, this is actually giving me like a lot of anxiety. Like, I can't imagine being in this situation. I can't imagine like having to play these games or whatever. Like, so, and I think what's interesting about it is I think it is like a human condition where it's like, okay, yeah, like you have all of this money presented before you. You could die, but like, what is that worth to you? And you would think that naturally,
they're always, if they're in that need of money, like, isn't it like they're so desperate that it's like their lives probably mean nothing to them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're in a bad situation anyway.
There's this whole scene in the first episode, which this isn't like a spoiler or anything, like, again, it's in the first episode, but I think it was really interesting the way they did it, where they had, it's like the guy who like gets people into the games, but he basically, they're trailing him and they're following him around this park where there's a lot of homeless people, and he presents them with basically, it's like this baked bread or a lottery ticket, and he's like, but you can only pick one. All of the people pick the lottery ticket except for one guy, right? And all of them like are scratching it because they're like, oh, like maybe I'll win, and they all lose. And then the guy brings all of the breads to the center, and they're like, you think like, oh, maybe he's just gonna give it to them, like he's just gonna be nice, and he's like, nope, I gave you guys the option and you chose what you chose, so you're not gonna get this food. And he puts all the bread on the ground, he just stomps on it all, like destroys it in front of these people. And it's interesting because I think there's like a sense of moral nihilism to it, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you did present them with the option, that's what they chose, but it's also like you're watching it so horrified where you're like, these people are like starving and homeless, so like why not help them? And so it's just interesting because I think it brings like those two things together, where it's almost like this capitalist mindset of like, well, if you can't make it, you can't make it, but also like this humanistic,
you know, that kind of reminds me of is like when somebody's, because I've been with people who have done this, like, you know, if there's like a homeless person asking for money, instead of like giving them money, people will be like, well, I can go in and buy you food. And like, then they're kind of like, a lot of the time they don't want that or whatever. It almost kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know if it is the same thing, but
I think it's interesting, but I think it brings into play like a lot of moral questions where you think like you go into these games and you think, well, I'm a good person. Like I wouldn't, like if someone needed help, I would help them. And then you see like people who think that, and it's like, well, it's them or me. Yeah. Like it's either they die or I die. And I will say though, there was one of the games that I was like, okay, I would like to play this if it weren't like, oh, you're going to get shot in the head if you lose. But where it was like basically they're on like this carousel thing, they're all spinning, and the person calls out a number, like they'll say 4, and you have to get groups of 4, and you have to run into the room and close, like there's a bunch of rooms on the outside, and you have to run into the room, and if you don't get into the group of 4 within 30 seconds, you're left outside and you're shot.
Ugh. I would not want to play that.
I would want to play that without being shot.
But also that's like a fear of, that taps into your fear of rejection too.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that kind of what the American, like the US version of Squid Games is? Like, didn't they make a show on Netflix?
They did. I haven't watched it because I'm just like, no, this sounds bad, but I'm like, what's the point if they're not dying? And also, like,
it's just a game show.
Yeah, basically. Then it's just a game show. But also, I'm like, I think we're taking the wrong lesson from this show. Yes. Of, like, this capitalistic greed that is bringing people literally to the point of dying.
It's so America, though, to be like, here's, like, it's just
absolutely.
People playing stupid games and like, watching them fail.
Yeah, like, don't take anything away from it. Don't be afraid. Like, don't question the system for sure. Just enjoy this entertainment. And I think there's, like, just a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of, like, little twists in it that I'm not going to, like, spoil it, but I was just like, okay, they did this season really well. I think it was really well done. Also, Chris and I found, I think it was last night on Netflix, they have this thing, like, you know how, like, sometimes you can just do, like, a backseat or what is it, like a screensaver or whatever, and it's just like a fireplace.
Like ambiance, yeah.
Yeah, but they
have a Squid Games one?
Yeah, and it's the game master's like lair or whatever, like his office.
Ew.
And like it's just like an empty like chair, and like it's very clearly his office, but like sometimes it'll be like the like boop 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 Squid Game music.
That sounds
and
terrifying.
I was joking. I was like, what in the background you just hear like gun shooting, or like you just hear like someone like ah!
Yeah.
And then it goes back to like crackling fire.
I mean, I thought when I watched the first episode, I thought it was good. There wasn't like a reason I stopped watching it. I just didn't care. I just didn't finish it.
I think it would maybe give you anxiety a little bit.
I think it would, yeah.
Like
because the first episode was the not Red Rover. It was like the Go.
Oh yeah, like red light, green light.
Red light, green light.
Yeah.
Red light.
Yeah, which is also like a tough thing. Like I cannot stand still, you know?
It was crazy.
I think this season was amazing. Like, it was really well done.
I've seen people recap the season, so I'm familiar with what games they play, but I'm curious, what is your favorite, like, game? Like, what's the game that you think of the most when you think of
Okay, there's the game where I just explained to you where I'm like, that would be fun, but there's a game in the first season that seems horrifying, where it's literally it's tug of war, right? But it's like 300 people or whatever, and they're split into like teams of like 50 people on each side, and if you get pulled over like the edge or whatever, like your team gets pulled over, you like fall into this vat of like spikes and just die. And I'm like, I literally
and the thing
would pee
about
myself.
that is like you wouldn't die immediately necessarily, would you?
No, some of them you don't die immediately. Like some of them are just suffering.
I remember the glass breaking, the one where they have to like hop
over.
Oh yeah,
that one, because it's all anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
You know. And like this season, there was one that would really suck, where it's like basically a relay race where it's like you and 4 or 5 teammates, you're like tied together, and you have to make it around a circle and finish all these like little games. And I think it's like within 5 minutes. So like the first one, it's like you take a stone and you have to hit this other stone over, like you throw it. And then the other one is like you have to like wrap this thing around a spinning top, and you have to be able to spin it, like those types of things. But it's like everyone's watching you, and it's like if one person, it literally is like a relay, like if you've ever ran track, where it's like, oh man, like this person took too much time, so I'm gonna have to make up for it. Where it's like your hands are like shaking. Like I would literally be like, hey, just shoot me.
Yeah, you know what?
Like, I'm gonna lose.
Yeah, you don't want me on your team.
Yeah, I'd be like, respectfully declined.
Yeah.
But I think it's just it's so well done. I loved it. It was great.
Also, how bad would you feel? Because your actions are directly affecting. Is it the whole team dies or just one person?
The whole team dies. Like if you don't make it past, and like in it, like everyone, they only do like 2 teams at a time. So then it's like, it's the first game, I think. Or no, the second game. So it's still like
so ridiculous.
300 people are sitting there watching you do it.
Oh my God.
And then they just watch like the clock strikes down, and they're just like, bah, 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 and like kill you.
And then you're seeing your potential fate. That's horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrifying. But
God,
like,
why would anyone agree to do that genuinely?
They're so far in debt, and you can see like, okay, you get like this mindset where it's like, okay, I've survived the first game, and you see like all this money fall into this like piggy bank that's like floating above them the whole time.
It's what's motivating you.
Yeah, it's what's motivating. You're like, well, if I survived the first one, I could survive the second one.
But the thing is,
and they keep saying like one more game.
Oh,
because after each game, you get to vote a majority rules of if the games end or not.
Well, if the games end, then what happens?
Then everyone just gets whatever money has been accumulated over the games.
Oh my God, I would be like...
So then everyone, like, you can see, like, people are like, well, if we play one more game, we each get more money. Or, like, after each one, like, people will be like, oh, I almost died for, like, I don't know what, it's like 3,000 won or whatever it is. I don't know the amount. But, like, it basically like $3,000 or something, like, small. And so they're like, well, let's keep playing. If I almost died, I want it to be, like, worth something. And it's crazy.
Know.
And like
it reminds me of like how I felt about the Hunger Games is like I'd be like, I know I'm not going to win this, so let me just not do this.
You would be like PETA painting yourself in the mud, and you'd just be like, I don't know.
If I had been chosen, like I always think that there's no part of me that knows I would have or thought that I would have won the Hunger Games.
See, you know? That's my biggest flaw is I think I could win. Or I think I could make it pretty far. I think I could do a good job. I think I could be a pretty ruthless
with Hunger Games,
person.
it's different because you could easily like hide maybe. Like it's the same
Well, you could, but then they try to draw you out. Do you remember? Like, they'll, like, be like, oh, I'm sending, what is it, like, whacker jackers or something like that. Tracker jackers.
But it's like, I was going to say, it's the same theory I have when I play, like, dodgeball, where I'm like, if I just don't go up to the front, like, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm really good at dodging. Yeah. So it's that same theory of, like, maybe I could win if I just hide the entire time. But Squid Games, you can't do that. You have to participate.
No. And they're, like, literally, like, the people they'll lose, and they'll be like, please spare me. And they're just like, pow. Done.
No, that's horrifying.
It's
I can't.
Crazy.
I actually, even talking about it makes me upset.
That's what I was saying was giving me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, there's no way I could watch that show.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So another show that I watched recently was, I don't know if you saw, it's the Ted Danson show. It's from Michael Schur. It's called A Man on the Inside.
Yes, I've heard of it.
I was really excited about it because I love Michael Schur's shows. He did The Good Place. He did
The Office.
Parks
and Rec.
Brooklyn 911, I think.
I don't know, but I know, I mean, he did The Office and Parks and Rec for sure.
Yeah, so he's, like, known for, like, feel-good, like, thought-provoking. Like, The Good Place is one of my favorite shows. Like, I've watched it all the way through 3 or 4 times, and really? I think about that, like, the moral philosophy that they talk about in the show at least, like, once a week. Like, I think about it regularly, but I also have a weird, like, fascination/fixation on death. So, also, like, that's a me thing.
Just, like, a really quick thing. He must be the most, like, successful TV writer because, okay, first of all, he started his career as a writer on SNL, and then from there he wrote The Office, he did Parks and Rec, he did Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he did The Good Place, he did Master of None, which didn't really go anywhere, but
was great. I mean, I think it would have done better if, like, Aziz didn't
also
get canceled, but and
he was a producer on that show, and then he also produces Hacks.
Yeah.
Like, this man is very...
And I was listening to a Fresh Air interview with him, I think it was, where he basically was like, people ask me, like, why are you still working? He's like, why wouldn't I be? My job is fun.
His job is fun. He's super talented.
Yeah.
So.
But I think this show got, like, really good reviews. Mm-hmm. I thought it was so boring.
Really?
Like, it was honestly difficult to finish. It's, like, 30-minute episodes. The premise is basically... Ted Danson's character gets hired by a PI agency to become a resident in, like, an old folks home because one of the residents there, their, like, I don't know, I guess precious gems necklace has been stolen. Mm. And I just was like, it just didn't feel believable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what are the stakes here? Like, I was listening to a review about it and they basically was like, there's not really any
conflict?
Yeah, there's no conflict. Like, basically everyone's just nice the whole time. Like, you meet, like, the director of the facility who is just nice, and her biggest conflict is that they're trying to promote her. You know, like, you meet, like, him and his daughter have this conflict where they don't really talk that much after, like, it's a whole thing. His wife had died, like, the previous year of complications due to Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And, like, him and his daughter have this heart-to-heart where then they, like, settle things. But you don't even think that their relationship is bad until they're like, we don't talk a lot. And so then
it's just, like, a very feel-good.
It is. And I think there were moments that were, like, really touching because it is, like, about, like, older people at the end of their life. Like, you know, one of the characters, like, dies pretty early on and you just see, like, oh, wow, like, yeah, like, these people are probably going to die fairly soon. Yeah. And I think, like, there are touching moments where it's, like, he does really well with, like, the people in the Alzheimer's unit, but he has a hard time going in there because it's, like, he thinks about his wife or whatever.
Yeah.
But, and also, like, I'm here to say, like, so Michael Schur was like, yeah, we, like, went around a bunch of, like, retirement communities or whatever in California to, like, get the basis for it or whatever. I was like, the retirement community that takes place in has to be top notch. Like, it is expensive, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, and it's very similar to, like, where my grandmother was staying in terms of, like, okay, this is, like, just for people who are older who can no longer live on their own.
Yeah,
it's
independent living.
Yeah, and then the memory care.
Memory care, yeah.
And I'm just like, this is not the vibe of any place we toured a bunch of any place I've ever seen, unless you were, like, I don't know, probably Michael Schur wealthy.
Right, which is may have been where they went, because if they were just going around LA, I mean, there's a lot of money. So.
Yeah, I'm just like, they are having, like, lobster dinners or whatever.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
they have
and the first thing people
hours.
will tell you when people move into, like, those homes, like, the food starts out good, and then it ends up being very repetitive, and the chef quits, and then it becomes, like, a whole thing, like, yeah.
And everyone, like is, like, complaining about, like, oh, I didn't want to be in a retirement home. I'm like, why wouldn't, like, it basically felt like a college dorm, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want to be, like, you're with a bunch of people who are, like, your friends, like, like, you've lost some independence because you can't drive anywhere or whatever, but I'm like, everything's provided for you, like, and I'm like, but that's not what it's like.
Right.
in like a real retirement home. Like it just felt like it was too nice.
Yes.
And he's known for that kind of thing, but like I think in this, like I was just like, I don't really care what happens with this. Like the stakes weren't high enough. This necklace that he's trying to find.
Was it funny?
There were a couple of like touchstones of like, huh.
It's interesting because he's like known for his feel-good, heartwarming comedy, and I'm like, it's funny because I feel like the thing he's most known for is The Office, I would say, but I actually don't consider The Office to be like heartwarming necessarily. I would say that about Parks and Rec. I didn't watch The Good Place, but I've heard very good things about The Good Place. Like, but The Office, which I love, it's my like one of my favorite shows, but I would never consider it to be like heartwarming.
I think maybe like The Office, there are like certain parts of it that are maybe like a little bit heartwarming. Like I think about like when Michael goes to support Pam at her art show.
That's
like,
the only
like that.
thing I could think of though. Like we're thinking of the same scene. Like it's known for its like biting. Like they're very like everybody's very negative. It's a incredibly well written show. Like don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't consider it like heartwarming or anything. So it's just funny that's like
it was
what
shocking.
He's known for. But I'm like The Office to me is like not.
I feel like people were just giving it good reviews because it's like Ted Danson and Michael Schur, but I was just like, it was honestly difficult for me to like I'll be like, oh yeah, I should finish this. There's only 2 episodes left.
Well, if you want to watch a show, I don't know if you like Ricky Gervais stuff, but if you want to watch a show about like a nursing home that is sort of like, it is like heartwarming, but it's also like tragically sad at some points. It's a show called Derek. It's on Netflix, and it's a very good show. Like I remember watching it and just like, it's very emotional, but it's also like really nice too. And so it's not like it's a comedy, but I would say like it's like a comedy drama.
I thought you were gonna say what's the one that he's in where his wife dies?
I never watched that.
It's very good, but I like couldn't finish it because it is like deeply like
his stuff is like that
dark.
And Derek was kind of like at some points it got like so there was like one episode where it was just like not funny at all. Like it was just so sad. And his stuff is like that. But
I think Chris and I had like 2 episodes left funny. And we both were just like I don't think we can't do it. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
But it's also like funny.
Yeah, that's how he is though.
Yeah.
Derek is very funny. Also, Roy Kent, who plays Brett Goldstein, is that his name? Who plays Roy Kent? He was in it and he was really
interesting.
I love him.
Yeah.
But interesting. Yeah, I've seen the previews. I love Ted Danson though.
I do too.
Like I'm such a Ted Danson fan, and it kind of reminded me there's an episode cuz he's on Curb and he plays himself, or he was. He played himself, and like there's an episode where Larry is just like, he's talking about a new movie, and he's like, when are you going to stop acting? He's like, you're old, just stop.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he's our new Betty White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
But in other news, we also saw Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
I say it like we went, movie. Yeah, we went to go see it together.
And let me tell you, like, this is...
Oh, I still have 5 minutes left of it to finish. I forgot.
Oh my gosh.
When you got here, I was finishing it. Is it an important 5 minutes?
What was the last thing you saw?
The police officer was reading a magazine about himself. Okay. The retirement magazine.
I don't remember
on a
exactly
boat?
that part. Oh, so it was like the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was like credits.
There's another little gnome moment, but it's like
okay.
So I have been so excited for this new Wallace and Gromit movie to come out. It's called Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Fowl.
Okay.
And I love Wallace and Gromit. Let me just say, I think Matthew and I are going to be Wallace and Gromit for Halloween this year.
Oh, that would be cute. Which one would you be?
I don't know, because, okay, so originally I thought it'd be funny for him to be Wallace and I'm Gromit and I wear a cute little, dog costume. But then, I don't know if you know who Emma Chamberlain is.
Yeah.
But I saw her dress as Wallace, but it was, she was wearing, a plaid skirt and, a green
Would you wear,
sweater.
a bald cap?
No, she didn't wear that.
Oh,
but
okay.
she wore, a little, name tag that said, Wallace or whatever. You could carry around, I don't know. It's cute. But so I really want to do that this year. I don't think Matthew wouldn't dress up as a dog, though. I don't think
I could see that for him. I've been really trying to convince Chris to go as Frog and Toad.
Yeah, you guys should.
And he was like, no one will get it. I was like, what?
There's so many costumes that I have wanted you guys to do.
Like what?
That's your idea, but I'm saying I want to see you do it.
Okay.
Kermit and Miss Piggy would be so funny.
Yes. Well, last year on the way to the Halloween event, Chris did a sign. He's like, I think this is gonna be my last Halloween. I was like, are you dying? What do you mean? The way he says, I'm just like, he always talks like he's 80 years old.
But yeah, so I love Wallace and Gromit so much, and I was the last movie that came out, like the last feature, like full-length movie that came out was Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which is like one of my favorite movies. Like I'm just gonna say, Matthew and I watch it like regularly.
When did it come out?
It literally came out. I was talking to my parents about it the other day, and we realized like it came out like over 10 years ago because we were we were still living in Chesapeake, so I was like in middle school.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I only remember there was like a full-length feature one that came out like when I was like a kid, you know, like a little kid, and that's the last one that I remember. Like that's the only one I saw. That's why when we were talking about it before, and I was like, you know, I really liked Wallace and Gromit, but it's been so long I don't really remember that much about it.
Yeah, but they're so funny and they're just so like
they're heartwarming.
They're heartwarming, and like I think there's something to be said about how much like emotion they can give a character who doesn't speak at all.
Oh, that dog?
That dog is
that dog. Can I pet your dog?
That dog. Gromit is like one of my favorite characters ever.
I realized, I was like, oh, I think that dog and Wallace and Gromit are me and Poe.
Yes.
Where Poe's just like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. And it's just like so fun. I just love it. It's also one of the few movies that still do claymation. And I was actually just reading, and I don't know exactly who said this, but in an interview they were saying like, I guess the creators of Wallace and Gromit, they were saying like when Toy Story came out, they got a little worried because they were like, oh, like, is this where animation is heading? Like, is there any room still for claymation? And they were like, there is, but they continue to do it and people still love it. So
I'm here to say we should bring back more claymation. My favorite Christmas movies are the claymation ones. I love A Corpse Bride. Like, but the thing is, I was thinking, I was like, you never see like a you never see like a Scorsese length claymation, you know what I mean?
I mean, it would take so much time. I was like, they have to be like an hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which like, I don't even know. I mean, Wallace and Gromit, the new one, was not that long.
An hour and 22 minutes.
Yeah, see? Remember Chicken Run?
Okay, I was about to say, is that part of the Wallace and Gromit? Because I feel like
it might be the same creators. I'm trying to think.
Remember.
Because it's also like Shaun the Sheep. It's like that kind of. I think I don't know if it's the same exact. Like I think it might be the same creators. But I don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But Wallace and Gromit had always like they've had like full movies, but like Curse of the Were-Rabbit was the last one, and that one was nominated for like Best Picture, like Best Animated Feature. Like they're great. Actually, I'm sure this one will be too. But yeah, so Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. Like it came out in the UK like a few days ago, and I was literally so jealous because I was like, it doesn't come out till January.
You're like Googling British citizenship.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, Sir King Charles.
And it came out on Netflix a few days ago, and it was just like, it's such a good movie. It's so funny.
Warm. It's heartfelt.
It also,
I want to live in their little like
the garden.
Rickety, yes, their little house.
Their garden is so cute. And so also, it's kind of the perfect timing for this movie to come out too, because it's about like, so if you don't know, Wallace and Gromit is about this bald-headed British man who loves cheese.
Dome of a man.
Loves cheese, and he loves his inventions. He's like an inventor. Yeah. And so he literally like has like a house full of inventions, and he has like a faithful dog named Gromit, and Gromit doesn't speak, so he's not like voiced by anybody.
Also, I was like, the whole time I was like, are they in Wales? They sound so Welsh, but it's Manchester, England.
Yes, they have very weird, Manchester accents. And the design of the characters are just so funny. But this movie came out in an interesting time and in a world of like AI, and it's just funny because like Wallace like gets very attached to he relies on his inventions and technology so much that he can't even like really do anything for himself anymore.
A pot of tea or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't even touch their pot of tea anymore because he has like a brewing, like a tea making thing. He has like a whole like bathtub situation, like invention. He doesn't even pet Gromit anymore. He has a pet, and he has
like smacks him around a little bit.
And so like Gromit like wants to be pet by his owner, and like he can't even get pet by his hand, and so like Gromit is kind of like getting a little bit over it. But basically Wallace like invents this like gnome, this like garden gnome that can like cut grass or whatever, like
do
cut
everything.
Hedges.
Honestly.
And meanwhile, so the reason the movie's called Vengeance Most Foul is because it picks up at the end of the 1993 Wallace and Gromit film The Wrong Trousers, where at the very the movie is about a devious penguin villain named Feathers McGraw. Yeah. And he is he doesn't speak. This bird does not have a face, basically. He has, like, a nose and eyes, so he has no expression, yet he's, like, the most evil character.
Yeah, he conveys so much in just, like, the turn of his little cone head.
And I actually saw a thing so he's the main villain in this movie, because at the end of the Wrong Trousers, he is caught, like, stealing the blue diamond or whatever, or jewel, something. And Wallace and Gromit, like, get him arrested. He gets thrown in, like, a zoo prison. And so that's how this movie picks up, is he's like he's like, he wants revenge, and so he's like getting revenge on, you know, on Wallace and Gromit. And but what's funny is, like, so the creators were like, how do we make an expressionless penguin seem so menacing? And they use it through, like, music and through, like, you know, lightning crackling in the background. Like, it's even just, like, there's a scene in this movie where the penguin, like, jumps off a bridge, but he has, like, an umbrella, and the way he lands, it's, like, one fin down and one fin up, and it's just like, ooh, that's so, like, evil. And he's so funny. So my favorite, like, bit about Feathers McGraw is the way that he disguises himself just by putting a red glove on his head to look like a chicken. Yeah. And people fall for it.
People, yeah.
It's, like, my favorite thing.
That's who I would want to see in a biopic, a penguin. That'd be good. But only Feathers McGraw.
Only Feathers McGraw. Yeah, he's just, like, he's silent, but evil. And he is...
Were you about to say deadly?
But what's funny, it makes a lot of references throughout the movie to, like, James Bond, and, like, he's like a Bond villain. It's just, like, it's such a clever movie. I don't think it's as good, if I can give my little review, I don't think it's as good as... I still love Curse of the Were-Rabbit the best, but this was cute.
It was really cute.
It was cute.
It brought me a lot of joy, minus the last 5 minutes that I haven't seen.
Well, it'll still bring you joy.
Yeah.
It was good. So I just wanted to talk about it. I'm glad you watched it, though, because you texted me you're like, should I watch it? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, I was trying to find, like, some distractions, you know?
Yeah.
But,
I think Wallace and Gromit is always a very good British distraction.
I love good little British things.
I do too. They make me happy.
I was thinking about the other day, I think the British know how to do, like, cozy stuff the best. I don't know if it's because they're always cold.
What is it? Chalky, what do they call it? The hot chocolate the gnomes give him, like, sleepy chalky or something.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, they always have, like, little fireplaces and sweaters and shit. And I'm just
they
like,
love to be cozy.
Yeah, they don't know humidity.
Also, Wallace, like, is such an idiot.
Yeah. Which is why I'm like, that's me and Poe. Like, she's just watching me, like,
you're an idiot.
Smash our air fryer off of the top of the pantry, and she's just like, I could have told her not to do it that way.
Yeah. But Gromit always saves the day.
Yeah. But anyways, well, I think that's all we have for you today.
Yeah. This was a really, this is a nice episode. Kind of a come down from such a chaotic episode last week.
Yeah, sorry.
A great one.
Sorry for our arguments.
Oh, yeah.
Weigh in if you have thoughts, but
yeah, and agree that Robert Pattinson is better. Okay.
Anyways, but yeah, thanks for popping in with us. As always, follow us on Instagram to answer our questions of the week or just see our general posts. It's at Poppin' In Podcast. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, like, subscribe. Unless you hated this, then please don't.
Yeah, just keep those opinions to yourself.
Yeah, but otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye.